Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everyone, and welcome to the Nordic Football Podcast Weekend Preview Show. This is an Eliteserien special. It's the final game of the season in Norway. We've had Sweden's season finale, of course, Malmo, the champions, but Norway is still ticking along. But this is the final round of the season, and we're bringing you in a brilliant, hopefully it'll be brilliant, weekend preview show to wrap up the final game of the season. We're going to look at every single game. We're going to look at the Fantasy League as well. The Nordic Football Podcast Fantasy League. So we've got a nice show for you today, starring none other than our Norwegian football expert, Steve Wiss. Steve, how are you, my friend?
Well, as you know, Jonathan, I've been better. I've had some issues at home. I've been ill again, unfortunately. So if my voice does sound a little bit dodgy, then you know why. But yeah, it's all right. I'm excited for the last round. How are you doing? I know you've been a very busy man of late, and just a quick apology. We wanted to do a few more shows recently, but it just hasn't been possible. But we are almost, I'm never going to promise anything now, but hopefully early next week there will be a big bumper edition episode.
Yeah, the rumor is that this man, Steve Wiss, has had more throat soothers than Jenna Jameson lately. So we'll move on from that. But yeah, I'm doing well. I've had a bit of a relaxing 2 weeks, of course. Only really thing in Sweden we've had is the Allsvenskan relegation playoff. Brommapojkarna beating Sixton's BK 7-0 on aggregate. Incredible, really. So apart from that, obviously Malmo champions, and we do aim to have a show next week. So stay tuned for the main show on the Nordic Pod. We'll review and recap both seasons in Norway and Sweden. But for this round, I mean, you've got the screen up there, Steve. You can see there Brann and Glimt top two. Brann not necessarily guaranteed second place, but Glimt are the champions of Norway. That one has been decided a few weeks ago, which we discussed. And yeah, you can see the table there. I think the main place really is the relegation battles, looking very tasty. 4 teams potentially could go down. Four teams could still get relegated, basically. Not 4 teams going down, but you get what I mean. And we still got European places to wrap up as well. Tromsø there in third place, as you can see. So a lot to talk about this week, really. I know it's one of those last games of the season where there's a lot at stake, isn't there, Steve?
There's only 2 matches where they're completely dead rubbers, I think, off the top of my head. Molde HamKam and Odd Arlesund. I think every other game, there's something significant on it, on all of them. So even in those 2 that I mentioned, I think the likes of Odd and HamKam could still move positions up. There's only a couple of teams landlocked. We know where the Glimt are finishing. We know that Molde will finish 5th, whatever. We know Arlesund will finish bottom, whatever. But every other team, I think, could still switch positions, which is a bit unusual, isn't it, really, going into the final round? Only 2 or 3 teams knowing exactly where they're going to be.
Yeah, and the word briefly on Arlesund before we sort of get into the predictions and look at every game. Obviously, relegation has been confirmed, Steve. I mean, they've been in the league. How do you sort of sum up their Eliteserien stay in total? I mean, you can see they're 10 points adrift. What would you sort of say to Arlesund who are exiting the league?
Well, they came up last year, and I call them the West Brom of Norway. Yo, but they stayed up. Lars Arne Nielsen did a good job. I think looking back, I mean, it's actually their record is really bad, isn't it? 21 losses out of 29, minus 47 goal difference, 22 scored, 69 against. I mean, they're not the worst ever, I don't think, but they're not far off it, are they? I mean, I think they've almost gone under the radar in terms of the stats, how bad they've been. They made a managerial change, which might not have helped them. And but knowing Arlesund, they'll probably find a way back into this league quite quickly. So I always said that someone this year would get cast adrift. We didn't know who it was going to be, but it was Arlesund.
Yeah, goodbye to Arlesund, as you say. A bit of a not really a memorable season. 22 goals as well. That's just less than 1 a game basically on average. So their fans haven't had really much to shout about at all, have they? 5 wins, but not too much to write home about.
11 out of 12. This is the away record table. 13 out of 14 defeats away from home for Arlesund.
Yeah,
which is absolutely. I mean, the one win was at Tromsø. Can you believe that? That was the one win, and they won there. Shock, but Yeah, so they've got one more chance to win away from home against Odd. So we might as well start with that game, shall we? Get it out of the way. Odd are obviously a big favourite to win the game. And this is one of those where if it ended like 5-0 to Odd on the final game, you wouldn't be shocked, would you? But at the same time, anything can happen. You're probably looking at an over game, aren't you? Where there's a few goals, 3-1 Odd maybe. But it's the one game where there's not really much is at stake.
Yeah, is it a game that's going to be on your radar at all for any reason, or is it kind of one of them, last game of the season, not much to talk about really? Should we move on? Maybe a prediction?
Well, I think 3-1 to Odd maybe. They've not got a lot to... HamKam probably aren't going to overtake them. They could go above Rosenborg though, so I think they'll want to get... I think Odd get the win, and if I was to take anything, it would be the goals really. But they've done what they needed to do this year. They've survived, so it's hard to read the motivation.
Yeah, certainly. And let's move on because we've got, quite a lot of games to get through. I mean, goodbye to Arlesund. Maybe we'll see them next season. You said they're the West Brom of Norway. And as we see from West Brom, they tend to sort of come up and down. So we'll see how they get on next year. But Steve, I can't really wait much longer to get into this one. If you just scroll down to look at the table again.
Yes.
The thing that really stands out here, we have to say, is Vålerenga second bottom of the league. I mean, this is something we've talked about a lot and speculated about. You have speculated a lot about this team this season. You've even said a few times, that you think they get sucked into it. Well, they have been sucked into it, my friend, and they are in trouble at this moment in time. They need results to go their way, obviously, and they need to win to get out of the relegation danger. What are your thoughts? Where's this come from? What are your thoughts on it? And obviously, let's look at their game this weekend.
Yes. Well, the destiny is actually in their own hands. If they win, they are safe, automatically safe, because of that. Because we have Stabæk playing against Argos, and you see, so this is the run of form heading into it. They've got the worst home record in the league, just 2 wins out of 14, and they're facing one of the best away teams in the league in Tromsø. So based on that, it's an away win, right? Obviously, football's not as simple as that, but Tromsø are fighting for a medal spot. If Tromsø have to win to guarantee themselves a place in Europe next season, so they're going to be motivated for sure, and they are the better team. The pressure's on Vålerenga. I mean, if Vålerenga go down, the managerial switch that Garbacka made from Lillestrøm mid-season could be the worst ever, like mid-season switch that I've ever come across in any league. Like,
yeah, I mean. On that note, how are Lillestrøm fans taking this? Because this, I mean, like you just said there, that is, in terms of like poetic justice, that could be one. This could be one of the biggest karma sort of, I'm not saying karma because he's not done anything that bad. He's taken a different job, but you know what I mean. As in, it could be one of the biggest poetic justice situations in the history of Norwegian football. Surely.
Well, if we just look at another fixture, right? We look at the table. Where Sandefjord are one. Well, they're above them on goal difference by 2. Who does Sandefjord play the final game? They're at home against Lillestrøm.
No way.
Now, I saw somebody tip Lillestrøm to win this game. He's someone who's a big tipster on the socials. Probably doesn't know the intricacies of this, and I thought there's no way that's going to happen because I think Lillestrøm fans will be desperate for their team to lose this game. They just will.
Would that explain the odds? I mean, that Sandefjord looks quite a narrow price.
Yeah. I mean, if it was the first game of the season, you wouldn't have Sandefjord at 1.57 to beat Lillestrøm, would you? But at the moment, go on.
Is that based on sort of team news as well, or is it literally just people thinking?
Just motivation. Yeah. Simple as that. Sandefjord. I mean, Lillestrøm.
That looks underpriced, though. To be fair, that's quite a big
short price.
Yeah.
It is a short price. I mean, I'm not saying I'll bet on them because ultimately, if we look at the other results, and every team will be looking at other results, a point might be enough. If they look at what Vålerenga are doing, a point might be enough. So it's one of those situations, though, where I do actually Lillestrøm fans will be wanting them to lose the game and send down Vålerenga. But again, it's in Sandefjord's hand. If Sandefjord win their game, they are going to be safe, whatever. So, that's all they need to do. Every team, actually, Stabæk and Argos playing each other. If they win their game, they're safe. So that's at least it's in their own hands to start with. That is the other fixture, Haugesund against Stabæk. Both teams will be desperate to see Lillestrøm winning. They'll be desperate to see Tromsø winning. But, I mean, we could get a situation where Haugesund actually end up in the automatic relegation spot. If Vålerenga, Sandefjord, Stabæk win, Haugesund are down. I mean, it's pretty dramatic. And then there's the playoff spot as well to consider. Someone will end up in the playoff spot. It's going to be really tense. But going back to Vålerenga Tromsø, I think Tromsø beat them. I just think they're the better team. They're better away from home. Vålerenga are under a lot of pressure at home. I don't think playing at home helps them. If they fall behind, the atmosphere is going to get toxic, possibly. Every now and then we get a shock. What is it about this league? A big team has gone down quite a lot in the last 5 or 6 years. Lillestrøm went down. Brann went down.
Yeah.
There's big team that, I mean, it's incredible. It would be sensational. But I don't personally have faith that Vålerenga are going to stay up.
I mean, just looking at that table, like you said, it's really fine margins. If Vålerenga's goal difference, if they get a draw and Stabæk lose, there's a potential that they'll leapfrog them and get at least minimum playoff place.
I think that might be the best chance, yeah.
So you think a draw? I mean, let's try and predict this match, Vålerenga's game. Team news-wise, is there anything standing out and anyone missing maybe? And what is your prediction for the match? Because obviously, as you said there, a draw they could just about get maybe relegation playoff, but what are your thoughts? Like you said, you think Tromsø are the better team?
I think I'm going to go Tromsø win because the problem is Vålerenga might look at, say Haugesund are winning 3-0. Vålerenga are happy with a draw. Tromsø might not be happy with a draw because Viking, if we look at the top of the table, Viking might be winning their game. In fact, actually, a draw does absolutely nothing for Tromsø, whatever. Like they might as well lose this game over a draw. The draw at 1 point does nothing for them because of the goal difference situation. So Tromsø might as well go out for the win. So I believe there will be a winner in this game, one way or the other. And I'd be more inclined to go for the away team just because I think they're the better one. So, they might prove me wrong here, Vålerenga, but it's a tough fixture for them last game. It's about probably as tough a game they could have. I can't think of a harder game right now, maybe apart from Brann.
Looking at the odds, let's just have a brief look at the odds there. So what are the prices? What's Tromsø's price? And also in terms of Tromsø, Steve, just a quick comment on them in terms of, you've been a bit down on them this season. I think that's been one of the main themes of this year. You slowly warm to them, maybe slightly. A word on Tromsø.
They've had a great year. They've got the absolute most out of this squad. First half of the season, they were lucky with the results, but I think then they realised where they were, and they have played better football second half of the season, and made the most of their position. And I think now they'd be gutted to finish outside the top 3 now. It'd be great to see European football back at the most northerly professional football team in the world. So, I'm amazed they're such a big underdog, actually, in the books. You can get them at 3.2 to win. I think that's a bit unfair. They're the better team, really.
That is a big price, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that the books often do this, though. That it feels like the teams that have to win to avoid relegation are always a bit underpriced, rather than they're not looking at this and realizing if Tromsø are really fighting for this bronze medal, might even get the silver medal. They could get the silver medal if Brann were to drop points. So, I'm going to go 2-1 win to Vålerenga. This is the sort of game where I could see it. If it is close towards the end, it could be absolute. One team attacks and the other team attacks. It's a question of whoever gets the final goal, really. But
2-1 to Vålerenga.
No, I think 2-1 to Tromsø is what I'm going to go.
Okay, with. You said Vålerenga, but yeah, you meant Tromsø.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. So
okay. Tromsø it is. I mean, that is a big price. I think that's going to be a very exciting game to watch. Like you said, it could end up being end to end, that one. And as you just mentioned, the Tromsø could end up second place. That's an incredible season for them and a good season for the northern part of Norway, isn't it? If you could have top two
20. If they win it, they have 20 wins out of 30. If you had said that to me at the start of the season that Tromsø would get 20 victories, well, I'd have said, what have you been, whatever you've been smoking, I'll have a bit of it, please, Tromsø.
Yeah, and I mean, it says a lot to Gareth Helstrup's work, hasn't it? It says a lot of the work he's been doing there. So let's see how that goes. Let's move on, Steve. I mean, maybe we should look at that Starbet game, Haugesund Starbet.
Yeah.
Can see there that Haugesund are the favourites, about even money. How do you see that game going?
I think this is a tougher game to predict because if we look at Haugesund know if they draw this game, then at very worst they're going to be in the playoff, right? If they draw it, then Vålerenga would have to beat Tromsø by 2 clear goals for Vålerenga to finish above Haugesund. So I think Haugesund might play for the draw. You know, Stabæk, a draw would be useful for them if Vålerenga are only drawing. So we might get a position where they're looking across at, other results and other ways like that. But we just say Sandefjord and Vålerenga are easily winning, then Stabæk are in a position where they have to win. So this is all dependent. This match is more dependent on what's going on elsewhere, I would say. But I think it'll be cagey for a while. First half, I think both teams will feel each other out. It's a grass pitch here at Haugesund. This is one of these final games of the season, which could literally end 0-0 or 3-3. Do you know what I mean? Depending on how things go elsewhere. So the goal line is pretty high. It's odds on for over 2.5 goals. It's probably fair because it could go in either direction that way. But I reckon a good bet in this game, I've not looked at the odds, would be first half goals, say under 1.5 or something like that. Because I think it's more likely that, both sides don't want to be losing this game initially. It's a grass pitch, pretty cold up there on the West Coast right now. And it might be a bit of a tight, cagey affair to start with. Stabæk do have more momentum. Bob Bradley's done well. I mean, you feel like Haugesund are hanging on a bit. I worry for the Haugesund a bit if they went in the playoff, or even if they could go down automatically. But I do think if they made the playoff, I'm not sure I'd be thinking Haugesund would survive. So I think it's really important for them that they get a result here. But I'm expecting a tight one.
Okay, so you feel maybe a bit sitting on the fence. I mean, Haugesund have won their last 2 games in a row. Does that count for much? And also, both teams, you're looking there with 30 goals and 31 goals. They're averaging about a goal a game each. It's not exactly all firing on all cylinders, is it?
About a goal a game each. So about a 1-1 draw feels about right, doesn't it? Based on that, yeah.
But, your theory,
if it suits them.
You've got that theory, haven't you? Relegation 6-pointers, they could always kick off.
Yeah, they can. And this will depend. If other results elsewhere going not the way these teams want, then this could kick off into something stupid. Home advantage does mean a bit here because the grass pitch will help Haugesund. So I think if anyone's going to win, it would probably be them. But I think, gun to my head, I'm going to predict a 1-1 draw because that might be a result that is acceptable for both. I think Starbet, if you offer Bob Bradley right now the playoff, I think he would back Starbek to win the playoff over 2 legs. Okay,
1-1 draw. You're saying there. I mean, how you can see that Starbek 2 draws in the last 2 games, Haugesund 2 wins, so maybe that could count for something. But you've gone for their draw.
It's this side actually. The most recent ones are this side.
Apologies.
Yeah. So the last 3 losses for Haugesund actually. But
right, okay. Let's move on to Sandefjord then. They're the remaining team. Yeah. Just answer me this before you analyze the game. We've looked at all the 4 teams now. Who do you think is going to go down, and who do you think is going to get the final relegation place? I think Vålerenga go down automatically, and I think the 14th place is going to be Starbet because I believe Sandefjord will win this game. Right.
Who said about it? I don't think Lillestrøm are going to be that fired up here. To be fair, Sandefjord have played some decent football recently. Beat Rosenborg at home in the last home game. That was a big win for the first time they've beaten Rosenborg in like 20 years. That was. So that was a huge victory for them. I think they're fired up. Yeah, they are at home. And I think Lillestrøm, whilst no players go out there and try and lose, there's quite a few core to the heart Lillestrøm, fans within their own squad. Ruben Gabrielsen suspended. And I just wonder if the heart's going to be in it, Jonathan. So I think Sandefjord find a way to get the win here. But unless we're in a situation where, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes to go, a draw's okay for them, maybe then maybe then they might just accept a draw. But I expect they'll be. I think they'll get the job done.
Yeah, massive game that one. It's good. I think that's an exciting one to watch for sure. So yeah, you've got, as you said there, Sandefjord to escape, Vålerenga to go down, which would be massive, and Stabæk to be in the playoffs. No, you said Stabæk in the playoffs. Yeah. Which would mean that we'd have a lot to talk about on Monday. So we'll analyze all that when we have our main show next week. But that's the relegation battle capped. Steve, let's look higher up the table because, as you've mentioned, there's a few other things to play for. Glimt have got Starksport at home. That's kind of that's already kind of not a massive game in terms of the context of the league. But Brann, Tromsø, Viking. There's a lot to play for in these games, isn't there? So let's start with Godset Brann, Steve. I want to ask your opinion on the season Brann have had because they started so well, didn't they? They dipped a bit. I remember your preseason prediction that you said that they would have a bit of a downturn, which did happen. And then they've picked up again, haven't they?
They've, like I said, they've done their season went exactly as I expected until this recent run where they've won 11 out of 12 games, which is kind of hard to foresee, isn't it? Really, let's be fair. I've got to give them credit in this run. I don't really know how they've managed it, but they've deserved the wins. Really, they've played some excellent football, and it really kicks them on nicely for next season if they can. They've got a lot of momentum here in Brann. I think fans will be expected. I said in the pre-season show tonight that a medal, they're not going to get a medal, didn't I? But looks like they are now. In fact, they're pretty much guaranteed it on goal difference. I mean, they'd have to lose heavy here, and Viking would have to win heavy for them to deny that. So, but they want to get the silver. They want to finish second place. And winning one of the Norwegian Cups that were on offer for 2023 would be a great season, wouldn't it, for any promoted side? So I think they come to Godset and win. Godset, I've got to be honest, they're probably the hardest team in this whole league to predict. I've not got a good read on them all season. I don't really know quite why. Quite defensively improved, I would say. But they've actually one of those teams that have randomly finished the season quite well with 4 wins out of 5. But Brann are playing too well for them here, and I think motivation is much bigger for Brann. So Brann finish with the 3 points here. I think they'll probably be the best bet of the round, actually. If you wanted to bet on something, take Brann even just straight on the win, actually, if you wanted at 1.68 or a handicap. There's less pressure on them, really. They know they're guaranteed really a top 3 spot. They're playing good football. Godset have nothing to play for. I think they could go up 1 spot to 7th, which is not going to exactly motivate them hugely, is it? So I think Brann to win probably is the safest pick of the whole round.
Yeah, and Barfina has been their top goal scorer, and he's second in the Eliteserien, got top goal scorer charts actually. Amar Pellegrino looks like he's going to win that. He's on 23 goals. Steve, you look at Tromsø, Brann, Viking there. We've talked a bit about Tromsø as well. Let's move on to Viking. Pretty good season all in all, would you say? And what are their prospects of picking up a win in their final game against Rosenborg and sort of sealing that maybe potential medal spot?
Well, if you'd said to their fans at the start of the season, heading into the last game, you've got a chance of winning a medal, I think they'd have snapped your hand off, right? But considering where they were 2 months ago, looking like a title contender, in fact, I actually said that they really should take it to the wire. I think there'll be ultimately regrets. And it's this run of games here, really, that cost them 4 losses out of 5. They just didn't do enough. These are winnable fixtures. Odd. Tromsø at home, where they actually led with 5 minutes to go. Godset, HamKam, those are winnable fixtures, and they look back at those. If they just say they've won 2 of them, they're beyond 64 now. And all right, goal difference, they wouldn't have been able to win the league, but they should have took this title for me to this last game, the way things were going. So I think good season in one way, but in other ways, I think there'll be a lot of sadness with their fans overall. But that's the way football goes sometimes. But
they probably wouldn't have thought they'd be going for the league title, would they? Before the season?
No, they wouldn't have thought that. I think we'll talk about this sort of in the end of season preview review show. But I think ultimately a couple of injuries came at the wrong time. David Brecalo, I think ever since he's the defender, I mean, he will be in my Eliteserien team of this season at defence. Since he got injured, they haven't been the same, really. D'Agostino got injured as well up front. Yeah, Salverson's done well, but I think they were doing quite well as a rotated attacking trio, quartet sort of thing. Trippic's form went off a little bit. And it's been a tough year. The likes of Glimt have been relentless. Brann have been relentless in the last 10 weeks. Tromsø have been pretty relentless all year. So in another year, 58 points going into the final round might have cemented you second or third, right? I'm pretty sure, didn't Häcken finish like 58 in Sweden, and that got them third? So they're a little bit unlucky that other teams have done so well. But I don't really know. I think you'd probably have to ask diehard Viking fans, Jonathan, how they're feeling right now, because I think you have to feel the emotions throughout the whole season. Personally, as a neutral onlooking, I just feel regrets for them what might have been.
Yeah, and let's focus on the game itself, and a couple more teams to talk about before we wrap up this show. They're playing, as you mentioned, Rosenborg, who are 9th, which is incredible for me, really. To me, that's like Bayern Munich finishing, 12th. If you take the context of the league and the size of the league in Bundesliga. So, what would you say for this game in particular? Who do you think wins this?
Viking win for me.
Can Rosenborg sort of, go out with at least a little bit of self-respect in this game, or is it going to go out with a bit?
Well, they've got to be up for it. I mean, Rosenborg is just the basic expectation from their fans that they'll give it a go, and there is a rivalry between these two sides. I'm sure that part of them would like to sort of prevent Viking getting a medal. It's out of Viking's hands anyway. But I mean, all they can do is win and hope that Tromsø don't win, or that Brann get battered. So they'll go out for goals. And I think this is a match, if you're going to be betting on something for this game, you want to be on the over goals here. Probably over 3.5 is the line you're going to have to take. Skinny odds at 1.83. But it's the last game of the season. Both teams will be going for it. Don't really see it being like a tight 1-0 or something. Should open up quite a lot. So I think you're looking at like maybe a 3-1 home win, 4-2 or something daft like that. Rosenborg have not been good away this year. I think it's just 3 away wins. I just look at the away table now. 3 wins and 8 defeats in 14 away games. They're not good on the road. Minus 12 goal difference. So that's why I think Viking will get the job done in this one. They've won the last 2, so they've rebounded all right the last 2 weeks. Now that the pressure's kind of off them. So I think they'll finish with a win. Rosenborg will swing for a bit, get a goal maybe or 2 goals. But ultimately, it's just been a miserable year for them.
Yeah, horrible year, which we will talk about in more detail. Let's look at one more game, Steve. Molde HamKam. I think that just a quick comment on Molde and what's happened with them. I mean, probably in terms of predicting the game, you can see they're massive favourites. Is there any value in HamKam there at that price? And, obviously Molde have played in Europe in the week, so they had a little bit of less rest. What's your analysis on this game before we get your choices? I
wouldn't be backing Molde. Those that might just have an accumulator on Sunday and think, I'll put Molde in there at 1-5 to win. I wouldn't be doing it because they're guaranteed 5th place, whatever. They've got a big game next week. The next week's the second Norwegian Cup final of the year, Bodø Glimt against Molde. No one's going to want to get injured for that, are they, or suspended? Are they going to be really pushing that hard? HamKam can enjoy themselves. They could actually improve their position by 1 if they win. They'd love to beat Molde. They got battered by them the last 2 times, so they might want to lay a blow. So I think 10-1 on HamKam to win. I mean, you could probably do worse. Molde have got a big squad though, so when they rotate the players, and that sort of the Molde second string's probably good enough to beat HamKam anyway. But I wouldn't get involved in this game. This is one of those where it doesn't go on my radar at all.
Yeah, it's a bit of a trap game, isn't it? There's a lot of variables that are sort of hard to predict, and the odds are not necessarily great in either way. I mean, let's look then at your final choices for this week before we just briefly look at fantasy. Have you got any sort of 2 or 3 picks maybe for the list for the viewer? for this.
But I think Brann's the best bet. Brann's the best bet if you're looking for a bet. It looks a safe option, motivated, playing really well, and God set on the beach really now. And I like the goals in that Viking game, like I said. I wouldn't get involved in the relegation matches until we know what's going on. You can get involved in running, where if a team needs a goal, or both teams need a goal, then that's when you want to be betting on the overs in running. The Sandefjord, I wouldn't get involved in the Sandefjord game. They should win it, but I mean, that doesn't feel right, does it, back in Sandefjord to win at 1.58? Like, have they ever been this short in the Eliteserien?
Yeah, I was surprised to see that.
I'm trying to think I don't think that's ever happened. Like, I'm trying to think who the worst ever team would be in Eliteserien that they might have been shorter against. Yerv or someone, or who's the worst ever team I've ever seen on Eliteserien? I don't know, but yeah, that doesn't ring right with me. But they should still win it. They should win it. I won't get involved there. Well, I think Glimt against Sarpsborg. Glimt the same spot as Molde. They've got the Norwegian Cup final to look forward to. They've just played Europa League. They'll be lifting the crown here at home, the title. So they want to go out with a bang. This could be goals in this game, to be fair. But Sarpsborg might be a lively outsider. But yeah, I'd say you're looking at two best bets: Brann win and Viking Rosenborg overs. I want to just mention the playoff game in Obos. It's Kongsvinger against Kristiansund. So your favourite team might be back in the mix there.
Come on, the boys.
I don't. They're even money to win this game in 90 minutes, Kongsvinger. And I'm not sure that's a good price on that. I think Kristiansund, your boys, can get something here. I think they could take this to penalties, at least. So I'd be looking at a double chance on Kristiansund here. I think they've got a better squad, to be honest with you. And there's another match, Lynn against Hod, for the final spot in Obos. I think Lynn won that the previous game 3-0. I don't know if that is the Lynn Oslo that used to be around, that John Obi Mikel once came from. I don't actually know if that is like a Phoenix club of them or the Lynn. But it sounds damn familiar, doesn't it? I'll need to do my research on this one, Jonathan.
More research needed. So let's move back. So your final chip picks are Brann to win and Viking Rosenborg over 2.5 goals.
Yeah.
And what were the odds? What were the odds for Viking Rosenborg overs?
Viking Rosenborg on 1.83 on over 3.5 goals in that game, and Brann to win at 1.7.
Fantastic stuff. So, sorry, just repeat the overs again.
Yeah, over 3.5 goals. Over 3.5.
At what price?
1.83.
Okay, Interesting stuff. So hopefully that gives you a lot of value for the last weekend of Eliteserien 2023 season. Before we finish, a little look at the last week of the Nordic Football Podcast Eliteserien Fantasy League. Now it's pretty tight at the top. Well, actually, it's not. Larry M is a little bit of a Buda Glimt this season, to be fair. It's going to take a lot for him to be pipped, especially with his 81-point haul last weekend. But if you look a bit further down, see, the race for second is quite juicy. You got Henrik Stakkerland with 115-point total.
That's a massive haul, isn't it? Yeah. We're going to have to have a look what his team was last week there.
He must have played a card.
What has he done here? He's had Bård Finner as captain against Glimt. He's got Adik Benro in there, Trippic, Haugen. Bloody, I mean, that's a monstrous team.
That is incredible.
Last week. My gosh. Yeah, so he's in a lot of leagues.
It's given him an outside chance of second place, hasn't it, Steve?
He's in a lot of leagues. Yeah, I mean, the second place is up for grabs. Finnatastic, Morris Janssens, Andy Martin. I know Andy Martin at one point was second overall, I think. Like 1 point off second overall at one point, Andy Martin. And then we've got FPL Heskebo busting for a week. And then Stacker's got a chance. I mean, Andy Martin and FPL Heskebo are actually in the battle in England, right? This is the English table, and there are 6 points between them.
That's the whole of it. Anyone basically.
This is anyone sort of registered in England, yeah. Norwegian Wood here, George Owen might feel like he's got a chance, or Sam Chester United as well.
So Andy Martin could win the entire Nordic football. The entire Eliteserien English League.
In the or FPL Eskimo. I mean, there are only 6 points in it.
Wow.
I mean, overall, I'm just trying to think here. Points. Here we go. So overall, this guy, I was just thinking, by the way, the guy who's top of our league, Forsterman Tilmoa, Larry M, he's got to be close to winning the whole thing with that amount of points, surely. Well, should we have a guess? I don't know where he is. What do you reckon? Top 10 overall? Top 5 overall?
Top 10?
He's got to be high. 7. Wow. 7. Who the hell's above him? I mean, let's have a look who's leading this thing. Jan Magnus Staud Plateau. He's got 2,000 points. He's the only one in the game with over 2,000 points.
That's incredible. But yeah, well done, Larry Martin and Heskebo, two listeners of the pod. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, let's just go back to the podcast. Larry M, he's not out of it, by the way. He's only 28 points behind him. I don't know if he's got a chip left or something. You never know, do you? But he's top of every league he's in. Apart from, this guy's had a great year, Larry M. He's going to win our league. I think we can safely say that. Some other guys I just want to give a shout out to San Pellegrino. It's a great name, isn't it? That I do like the San Pellegrino name. Average at FPL, he's in the top 10, and Andy Nash, of course, down there in 13th as well. So I've had an improved year in fantasy. You have to drop down a bit to see me to 48th in our league. I am.
Used to be fantasy king at this game.
I didn't. This is. I mean, if you look at my history, so I'm. What am I? Try to find where I am here. God, 2006. I'm trying to find my history, but here we are. Round history. Right. So this is my seasons here, Jonathan. You're right. I used to be very good. I mean, 2020, I was 254th. 229 in 2019, 636 in 2018. Then last year I dropped to 4,884. Sorry, that was 2021. And then 2022 I was 2864. So for me now to be 1629, I mean it's an improvement. It's like I don't know what happened to me in 2021, but I just went completely off the rails.
Yeah, you've recovered slightly. 2017 was your worst. Let's not talk about 2017.
Well, that was my rookie year, so we'll let myself off that. But I'm a bit disappointed because I was as high. My ranking was as high as 457 after round 14. 457. I thought I'm back here. In fact, that particular round, I was 8th overall out of everyone in the whole competition.
Yeah,
which for me was the highest I've ever been.
Fair enough.
Let's have a look.
Listen, you're not winning it, so let's wrap the show.
Now, I want to have a look at this. Was my round. Look at this. This is like my proud moment of the year in fantasy, where Tom had Akor Adams and Thomas Len Olsen as a captain.
What was the total for that week?
155, and I was 8th overall out of anyone in the whole competition.
So you've basically got 10% of your entire points in that week.
Thanks. Yes. I'm good, mate. I'm good with chips. As you know, I'm good with double match days and chips. I'm really good. It's just the single match day grinds which can get me down a bit.
Let's look at Andy Martin's. Let's look at Andy Martin's team heading into the.
Let's have a look at Andy Martin's team going into the final round. Then this is what he's got at the moment. He's got Illich has done pretty well since he's come in. I know Andy's been pretty big on certain players throughout this event. At one point, I just need to go back to his history, if we can find his history. But he had a very good. He was right in the mixer at one point. Try to find. Where do you go back and look at his round history? I don't actually know. But here we go. Round history. There we go. His overall rank, right, was 3rd. Here you go. Look at this. He was up there in the top 3. He's in the top 4 between round 19 and round 22, Jonathan. Look at that. This section here.
Impressive.
Anyway, so I think that'll probably have to do it, won't it? Good luck to all our participants. in the Nordic Football Podcast League. May the best man finish second behind Larry M.
Have you got one player that you must have in your team this week, just to wrap it all up?
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's just... Who's the worst team is Arlesund, right? Odd are facing Arlesund. There's a chance that this could end something like, I don't know, 5-0. If Arlesund just give up the go. So who's going to score the goals for Odd? A question I'm not actually sure. But let's say, I don't know, just say Mikkel Ingebrigtsen started for them in this game. He scored 18 points in the last round. He could be the hot hand. Mikkel Ingebrigtsen could be like a differential for you, 3.6% owned. Make sure he starts, because anyone can start the last game when there's nothing at stake.
Former EFC man. Yeah, I remember you praising him highly.
So he would be sort of my wild card. Like, he could be a big differential. Again, I mean, if Odd are terrible, someone's got to score those goals, right? So you've got to make your mind up who's going to do it.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. I think that'll do for this week. The final bonus, the final weekend preview show of the season. Thank you so much to all our patrons. We will have a show next week, just capping the season in both leagues. And also we'll talk a little bit about the cup final, of course, as well, coming. So, Steve, thanks a lot again, as always. And thank you to every one of our patrons as well. Like I say, we really appreciate the support that you give to the podcast. I was seeing people's Spotify Wrapped this week, people posting their screenshots of the podcast, how many times they've listened to it and everything like that. So love to see that. Do that again. Twitter at Nordic Football if you want, or X. So yeah, that's it from me, Steve.
Thank you, Jonathan. And thanks to all of you. And we'll see you next week, hopefully. Goodbye.